everyone! So today I'm going to show you how to make this fun underwater scene using some stamps by Clearly Besotted. We're going to use the Water Plushies stamp set, which has lots of cute sea creatures. It also comes with a die set, but we're not going to use it for this card since we're going to do a lot of masking. And instead of freehanding in our background scene, we're going to use this great Picture It Ocean scene building stamp by Clearly Besotted. So I'm going to show you how to use this scene building stamp to build in a really nice background for your underwater scene. It's a little bit tricky with the masking, but I'm going to take you through it. So we're going to use our Misty, and the first thing we're going to do is take a piece of A2 size card base, right? And we are going to, this is a scrap piece of paper, we're going to stamp our underwater scene on the scrap piece of paper. And it's very important that it's an A2 size card size or whatever size your focal panel is going to be, because we need this as a guide for us to figure out where to put our background stamp after we put on the main images that are going to sit in front of the scene. Now, step 2 is to take the little critters that you want and arrange them on the background scene where you would like them to appear on the card panel. So we're going to use a little crab, we're going to use the starfish, and then a seahorse. And I'm just arranging them where I want them to sit on the scene. And then I am going to adhere them to the Misty. So I remove the scene stamp at this point and I put on my little critters. Now this is the focal panel that we're going to use, and it's an A2 size card, same as our scratch piece of paper. And we're going to adhere our little critters on this card because they sit in front of the scene and they need to appear in front of the background. Now I'm taking some masking paper and I'm going to stamp the images onto the masking paper. And then I'm going to fussy cut out the masks so that we can apply them onto the focal panel in a second. So I'm just going to kind of go round and round and just cut out my masks. And don't worry, I'm not going to show you all of them. All right, our masks are cut out and now it's time to arrange them on the focal panel. So I'm going to put a little mask on each of the 3 critters. And then we are going to stamp our background scene on top of our masked images so that our background scene appears behind them. And to figure out where to put it so we get perfect placement, we take our scratch piece of paper, stick it in the Misty, and then stick our little background stamp on top, directly on top, and adhere it to the Misty. So now we will ink up our background stamp because we know we have the perfect placement because we used our little scratch paper guide. And then we're going to stamp it over our 3 images and make sure I got a really nice impression. And then we're going to take our focal panel out of the Misty and remove the masks and watch how beautiful this looks. So it's a nice little trick if you want to make sure you get to put your little critters exactly where you want them. There's no guesswork involved, and you don't mess up your scene by having a critter just slightly off. So I love this technique. I just did this for the first time with this card. So I also stamped a few additional little fish into the background scene, and I taped it down to my little board. And originally I thought I was going to make this a 1-layer card and just have the part that is within the little square there colored in, and I thought I would just put a sentiment on the bottom white part of the card, but as you'll see, it didn't quite look the way that I thought, so I ended up in the end cutting down the focal panel, which is fine. Now for the coloring for this scene, it's really small. It's only about, I think, like 3.5 inches by 3 inches, or 3.5 by 3.25 inches. It's really small. So the card that we're going to end up making is a mini card, but I still wanted to get all the colors of the rainbow into our little scene. So that's how I'm kind of picking colors as I go along. So I made the starfish with some pink colors, or pink tones, and then our little seahorse, I made him green and purple. And then for our little seagrass in the back, we're going to use some muted blue greens, and I'm just going to work my way through the scene and just make sure I get in all of the colors of the rainbow. For the little piece of coral behind the seahorse, we're going to use some orange tones. For our little sea vine, is that what you call it? A little sea vine next to the crab, we're going to use some yellow greens. This is one of my favorite combinations with the YG01 and then YG17 and YG67. And then for our little stones, we're going to use some E70s and some BG70s for the stones. And the stones in the very front are BV in the BV20 series. And I really like those three tones together with the E70s and the BG70s and the BV20s. They're really nice muted colors, and I just think that they work really well together. They're all nice and cool colors, and they're just perfect for a little underwater scene like this. For the little rock that our crab is sitting on, we're going to use some brown tones, so some E40s. And again, the E40s, I think of them as a cool brown. And we're going to focus our shading on the edges of the rock and the little crevices. So wherever there is a little black line drawn into the stamp, we're going to follow that with our darker Copic markers and then leave the highlight towards the center. For our little fish, we needed some yellow in the scene to make the rainbow, so I colored the smallest fish yellow and then the larger fish a deep blue, because our water is going to be blue-green, so I wanted there to be some pure blue in the scene. And for our crab, we're going to use some R's, some R5, R8, R27, R39. And then one thing I like to do with my reds, if I want to brighten up the center of my reds, I'll usually use YR12 to just give it a nice little glow in the center of whatever object I'm trying to color. For the sand, originally I was going to do these in E40s, but then after I colored in the other images, I realized I needed to warm it up a little bit. So I changed the background to the E30 series with my darkest color being the E35. And we're just building in the little shadows now with E35 and then blending it together with E31, darkening up the shadows with E35, and now we're going to work on our water. And for the water, we're going to use BG13 for our darkest color, BG11, and then BG10 to blend everything out. And it's a little bit difficult maneuvering with all those little critters there, but I managed. And then I added some bubbles also, and I'm just going to put some dark blue in the center of the bubbles just to make them stand out from the water a little bit. And then we're going to put some highlights in with our white gel pen. So along the top of the curve of the bubbles, we put some white gel pen. We're going to add some black glaze pen to the eyes of all the little critters, and then add some highlights on the objects. So for the sea vine on the left, I just put a little dash of white on each of the leaves, and then some little specks and flecks here and there throughout the scene just to give a little shine, give a little interest to our little critters in this cute little underwater scene. So at this point, I realized that my original intention for this card was not going to work. So it was not going to look good as a single layer card. So I went ahead and just cut down the panel into a square so there's no white, and we're just going to make a little mini card. And we're going to have 2 sentiments on this card. On the front of the card, it's going to say Snappy Birthday, which I think is adorable, given that we have a little crab there. And then on the inside of the card, it's going to say Let's Celebrate, which I thought was cute because, again, we have lots of little critters with shells, I guess, in the scene, or do we? I guess I was thinking the star, the celebrate went along with the star, but perhaps it doesn't, but it definitely goes along with the crab. So we're good. So just to highlight the image, I backed it on a little piece of black cardstock so that about 1/8 of an inch is sticking out from all edges, and then we're going to put it on top of a sea green little card base that I used some paper from Lawn Fawn, and that is our card. So it's so cute. It says snappy birthday, let's celebrate. And then here are some other versions that I worked on. This one says whale done. It has the little whale plushie from the Water Plushies stamp set. And then we also have this card with a little puffer fish that says you're swell, which I think is so cute. I love the little kissy face that the puffer fish is making. And those are the cards that I have for you for today, everyone. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you haven't checked out Clearly Besotted stamps and you love like cutesy little critters like I do, I definitely urge you to check them out. I actually ordered the Water Plushies from the Clearly Besotted website. I think they're in the UK, I'm in the US, and I got the items within a few days. I don't know how they did it, if they have a distributor in the US or what, but it was really, really fast, and I was really happy with that because then I got to play with my new toys right away. All right, that's all I have for now. Have a great day or evening, depending on when you're tuning in, and I will see you again in the next video.